Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So one of these days, or in the next few days, is going to be the 1 month of this whole tank, this S-1000, being set up. Kind of what I wanted to go through was the pros and cons of the tank itself. Obviously this is the new G2 model, so there's been a lot of improvements by Red Sea, and I've noticed a few things, good and bad, that I did want to go ahead and go through. So we'll go ahead and start with the bottom of the tank. We'll do it compartment by compartment, basically. So for the new G2s, one, you get a new diaphragm valve. So far, so good. It has been pretty darn quiet and easy to adjust, so that has been wonderful. And versus the old generation Red Seas, where the valve was actually in the back, it's nice that it's right here, so it's super easy to get to if you need to. You don't have to reach all the way to the back of the tank just to, you know, change this and that. Now, at some point, I am going to go ahead and change this to a reef mat, the 1200 series. I haven't gone through that yet, but so far, basically, it's just like a, you know, standard filter cup. No real difference there. Now, one thing that has been kind of annoying me a lot recently is, as you can see right here, it's supposed to go from down here, flow over, and then go into this hole, into the next compartment, and then back out the other. But as you can see right here, the water is actually just going over this little barrier right here, instead of going through to the tank on the other side. Now, to me, this is a little bit of a design fault that's kind of annoying. Firstly, I have a pump that is rated for this size tank. It's currently only running at 40%, and I can't run it any higher because if I do, it'll just overflow even more, and none of it will actually go into this portion here. I think it would have been nice if they maybe had made the barrier here, the removable barrier, at least to this little notch. Like given an extra inch, or maybe just a little bit more to the next one, like 1 inch, 2 inches. That would have helped a lot, just to push the flow through this bulkhead and into, you know, the little frag system right there. But overall, it's still pretty okay. I'm not really complaining too much. I do actually have a few ideas that I'll possibly do in another episode, where I'll try to get more flow into that next compartment, but that's for a later time. And just kind of as a side note, obviously I do have these caps here. They provide no difference as far as the flow. So it's not actually the cap's fault, it is the way the tank is kind of built. It's just, I can't push it more than 40% because it'll just overflow like crazy over this barrier instead of going into the other tank. And that'll just add more noise and more issues, which I don't need at this point. Now, before we do go on to the frag tank, we'll go ahead and explain the other chamber here, the supposed other outlet. I do have just the skimmer here. That one does just fine. I do have an issue with micro bubbles, but that is more of a fault of the skimmer, which is a bubble magus, and not so much, obviously, you know, has nothing to do with the tank itself. The adjustable overflow right here is doing just fine, and then I have my ATO, and then as well as the outlets for the dosing tubes. And then we do have the Varios 8 pump. Somebody did ask how I plumbed it. Basically, that little lighter red piece that you see right there, I 3D printed that, and also the one on the bottom, just a hard plumb the entire thing. So that's actually this Red Sea PVC. I did cut off a little piece and I used it right there. Now, one thing I don't quite understand is this little piece right here. That is actually for a gravity-fed auto top-off. In the other Red Seas, you see like this little extra glass reservoir that you get to put on top of the sump. This one obviously doesn't have it, and honestly, I don't know what you could have possibly used that for. I do know that the additional frag tank, it can be used as a reservoir, but it doesn't make sense because they're basically at the same level. It would not gravity feed to the return chamber because obviously they're on the same level and there's no pressure to kind of pump it over. So I'm not really sure what that was for, or how it could have been used, but I went ahead and took it off, so it's not an issue whatsoever. Now, as we move over to the frag tank, obviously my frag tank is super full. We're gonna have a brand new little series coming out soon. as we get ready for the frag swap here in Las Vegas. So obviously my tank is just super full of coral right now, which is perfect. Now, as you can see right here, there is a lot of flow in the tank, and that is not because of the water being pumped in. I did go ahead and buy an additional pump. There's the wire for it. I bought an additional tiny pump just to kind of put that circulation in there, just because basically there isn't any whatsoever. There just wasn't enough, especially for keeping SPS and having them do well in this reservoir. So I went ahead and just added that pump in there. It's just one I had laying around, and it's going to do for now. And one thing I'm kind of really proud of right here is going to be the Red Sea dosing pump. Obviously I only have the 2 heads connected right now. It's just alkalinity and calcium, but it's nice that it's mounted right here. It's kind of just out of the way of everything. And then I went ahead and wired everything around the edges so it's not in the way. There's not a lot of clutter. There are some lines you see here right now, but I'll fix that at some point. And it just goes around the tank and then to this little equipment compartment. And this equipment compartment is just 2 832s. Nothing else in here at the moment. Now, one thing that comes with this S-1000 is going to be this additional equipment rack that you see here. Personally, I don't see how it's going to be that useful, so I haven't used it pretty much at all. I was actually thinking about putting stickers on it. I thought that might be cool, but to me, honestly, this was kind of useless. Number one, even though you can mount things on it, there isn't any spot or any room to like put, for example, like a power brick or anything. So having it slide in and out would be kind of useless, which is kind of why I put my reef dose here instead of there, for example, because then you'll just have a lot of loose wiring that you're not going to be able to kind of put anywhere. I mean, it is a nice addition, which is super cool, but for my uses, and you know, I'm trying to make it as simplistic and useful as possible, it just doesn't work in my case. Now, before we move on to the main display, obviously here you can see I have like a control bar and everything, so all the equipment is there, which is really nice. One feature I really liked about this Red Sea tank is actually on the other side. So as we go to the other end of the tank, we get to see the back here. And what's cool about the back is it's not solid. So there's just these little maybe 1/8 inch panels. And this one that is right behind the control bar is actually removable. So if I need to get, for example, into the back, it's a lot nicer for me just to remove the screws that are holding it together. And I don't have to pull the whole control panel out of the tank. So I can actually just get into everything from the back, and everything here gets, you know, to stay, and I don't make a giant mess of everything, having to pull all the wiring out and this and that. And finally, we get onto the tank itself. So far, the tank itself is pretty darn nice. I pretty much don't have too many complaints about it at all. Most of the seams, for example, are pretty darn good. It's not super consistent. For example, I can see like right there, that may possibly be an issue at some point, or it's just, you know, kind of the way it is. That I'm not too worried about though. I mean, it might just be like a slight dip from manufacturing, but so far everything else looks pretty nice. This is obviously just water spots. That's not, for example, like the silicone peeling. And the other sides seem pretty decent as well. Now, one thing that did catch my attention is the armored seams. So if you haven't heard, the Red Seas have new armored seams in which there's like a diagonal piece of glass that runs down the interior. And that is so when you hit it with a scraper, nothing happens. But it's a little hard to see. This has happened more than once. There's like a little, let me see if I can get a hold picture of that. But there's actually a little piece of silicone that's kind of floating around. Let me see if I can kind of, there you go. Can you, that little piece right there. Now this is on the back end, which I haven't actually scraped, as you can see. So that to me is a little bit on like the poor manufacturing side. That little piece of silicone is just sticking there. I mean, it shouldn't be an issue because it has nothing to do with the actual seam. It's that actual glass piece. But that's a little bit of a build quality annoyance that I would think wouldn't happen with a tank this expensive. And then as far as the top goes, it's just that nice Euro bracing. It's a little dirty right now, but the Euro bracing is nice. I didn't think I would like Euro bracing as much as I do, but it's actually quite nice having it because it really is like having a little arm that you can put stuff on, which is cool. I did go ahead and keep these stickers on because I really like how the way they look. It's very like Japanese retro, I guess you could say. So it actually gives a really nice, like maybe steampunkish look when you look at it from the top. I don't know, I just like them, so I kept them there, and it seems like they're waterproof too, which is super cool. And lastly, we do have the Red Sea screen kit. Now this is basically made out of 2 kits. So far, pretty good. The only thing I kind of wish I would do differently is this middle part is super big. I would have maybe made it a little smaller. For example, cut it in half and do 4 screen pieces, or maybe put the bar in the middle. That would have been a decent option. But so far so good. It looks really nice. Definitely, if you can, go with the black netting. I got this off of BRS. This is super nice. It makes the tank just look so much sleeker. The presentation is just awesome. But that is pretty much a quick review of the tank itself. Still, so far, I really do like it. I mean, it's probably one of the better Red Sea products. They've definitely made a lot of changes that I think are worthwhile. Even like the small seam thing, that's probably just a quality control issue. So I'm not too worried about there. Plus, you do have like the warranty. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. If you guys have any questions on the tank itself, let me know in the comments, but I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.